Hey guys, I guess seeing me animated wasn't exactly what you had in mind for this Q&A. Yes, I went all out and made this little animation of myself in Adobe since I'm kind of too timid to reveal my real face yet. Maybe at 100,000 subscribers I'll do a face reveal, even though that might seem a bit contradicting as well. I asked you guys to comment some questions and I picked a few out that I found relevant. So, to start off this Q&A, I'll answer some basics. Some of you asked me for my name, my age, where I'm from, and what languages I can speak. My name is Morgan. Morty is somewhat the nickname I prefer within the fandom though. I am 22 years old and I live in Belgium. That is this tiny country surrounded by Germany, France, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and the UK. Because we have 3 different languages in my country, logically as a Belgian I am taught all 3 of them in high school. So I speak Flemish, which is as good as Dutch, French, German and English. Then I speak some sentences of Japanese, Korean and Italian, but none really on a really good communicative level. So let's say I can relatively speak 4 languages. Alright, on to the next topic. A rather popular question was what kind of software I use for my editing. Well, before I explain, I must say a few things. First of all, I edit on a computer. I don't really edit on my phone anymore. I used to with the apps called Power Director for Android and iShot, but that was before I even had a YouTube channel. But I quickly moved on to iMovie and then eventually got hold of these Adobe programs. The 2 main programs I use are called Premiere Pro and After Effects CC. To get access to these programs, you need to have a subscription with Adobe, and a fair warning, these subscriptions are quite expensive and cost more than 200 euros for 1 year. Now, I initially got access through the university program of my brother whose study sponsored the subscription. But as I communicated to you guys this year, he graduated, so this year I did pay for my own subscription. The programs are pretty complicated and intimidating when you start working with them. I suggest you just practice and try different stuff out. It's always nice to look at tutorials on YouTube. There are plenty of tutorials for beginners, but once you've figured out the basics, there are also very specific tutorials should you have something in mind that you would like to create or recreate. My favorite channels are these. They specialize in showing tutorials on how to recreate certain Marvel or DC effects, and of course, from these tutorials you will also again gain certain skills and tips to work with. I have a few tips for you if you are really certain that you want to start editing with these programs on your computer. First, start by checking if your computer has the right specs, such as at least 8GB RAM for a good performance of the programs. I used to edit with my old Mac, which had 4GB RAM. My rendering would take forever on that computer, and something that I can now create in 10 minutes took me 2 hours back then. My second tip would be to find a person that you know who does something in the field of graphic design or visual design at the university. It is very likely that for their studies they will have a subscription sponsored by the university. A subscription counts for 2 devices, so if that person has it only installed on 1 device, you can ask if it's okay if you can also use that subscription to install the program on your computer. Moving on, some of you asked me about tips for editing. Well, in my opinion, editing is very personal. Even I still admire some edits such as Instagram edits, who are completely different from my own, but still so nicely made. But if you want to do something like my personal style of editing, I can sum up a few tips. First of all, I think it's important that you find your music first. I can come across a certain track and feel inspired to edit on it. I see the edit on the music before I've actually made the edit. Like an artist who sees an imaginary sketch of his work before he actually sketched it. That way, you also have an idea on what you're trying to make, what clips you'll need for it, and what your possible storyline could be if you make something like a fan-made music video or a trailer. Secondly, I think it's important that you look at other people's works. Not only fan edits, but also professional edits. To see how they transition, how they edit on the music, and get some inspiration from them. Try not to copy them, however. Try and put your own style into it, but if you copy, always try and credit the original one way or another. Third point, try to make a convincible whole if you make something with a story. I always try to find clips that correlate or fit into the story that I'm trying to tell, and if I can't find an immediate link, I add small visual adjustments through my software to make it a convincible whole. For the cube, for example, I added the cube in different scenes, I did background replacement and color grading to make two people seem to be in the same scenes. For Alpha, I made sure all Alpha figures had the elf ears, and so on. So that in the end it doesn't feel like you just have some random clips glued together, but you have a convincible story. Lastly, color grading is so important. If you work with Adobe programs, you have this amazing tool called Lumetri Color within Premiere Pro. With this, you can not only make your scenes in sync, but you can also give your entire video the same vibe through its color grading. So yeah, for me this is like a crucial tip for editing. Alright, enough of this technical mumbo jumbo. Some of you asked me how I got into K-pop and Blackpink and which song it was that got me into K-pop. I got into K-pop around 2015 when my sister made me listen to some K-pop songs. I remember Mama from EXO was the first one I saw, and I said to my sister that I couldn't remember a single face because there were so many members. I was overwhelmed. However, I did somehow like the music she made me listen to, and I started to just listen to some songs, mostly BTS and SM artists. Yes, I did still listen to BTS back then, but I didn't really get into K-pop until I came across Blackpink's Bitch Better Have My Money dance practice video on YouTube. I came mostly from this anime weeaboo-verse, but I felt like that I was growing out of that, and I was searching for something new to invest my time in. I had a Twitter already from all my anime stuff, so I connected with the very little fandom that already existed back then on Twitter and witnessed Blackpink's debut, and so on and so on. I do remember, however, that the dance practice really had a huge impact on me and that I was just instantly interested in these four girls, for some apparent reason that I cannot put into words. Alright, next question asks me what other groups I stand by now. Well, time evolved, and in the meantime I became a huge fan of Red Velvet and iKON. And my latest addition would be Twice. I don't really stan EXO, but I love their music and their members, but I'm not really interested in following every update from them. So I guess I don't really officially stan them, but yeah, those are details basically. One of you asked me when I started editing and at what point I knew I was into it. And moreover, how did I improve myself? Well, first of all, I started editing around the Playing with Fire comeback. I remember my very first edits were fake subs I made on my phone and people seemed to enjoy them. Then I moved on to this basic, and I mean basic, edit of Blackpink's Red Carpet at Asian Artists Award. And I noticed I kind of enjoyed visualizing these concepts for myself initially. It was for my own enjoyment, and editing in a way still is for my own enjoyment. When I made the Diamond Race, it wasn't because anyone asked me to make that kind of concept. No, I felt like, oh, I want to do something original for once, and this badass racing / spy concept seemed like such a cool idea, and if I wouldn't try and edit it out, no one would do it for me. And that's what I enjoy the most, the visualization of this crazy mind of mine, to see it happen before me. I eventually improved myself by of course moving on to complexer software, which allowed me to just do so much more. And then not only mastering the basics in there, but also mastering all kinds of other stuff that I can do within the software by working also with presets and plugins that I could get my hands on. This person asked me how I started my channel. Well, right after I posted my Mean Girls edit, the edit went viral on Twitter. And I showed my brother, who is very into editing as well, the success it had. And he was the one that said, you should make a YouTube channel. And I was like, I was in denial. I wouldn't believe that anyone would be interested in my dumb videos anyway. However, he insisted, and that's how Lally's Leia was born. What is my favorite video game? As most of you know, seeing me spam almost weekly with game live streams, my current favorite is Apex Legends. But my all-time favorite, which is unfortunately not available on the PlayStation 4 anymore, is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I used to play that a lot during my high school years. Alright, the next topic is quite controversial. It's about how I filter out toxic links and how I handle the hate that Blackpink gets from other people. As for toxic flings, if I'm able to and feel like it, I will call them out. Just to get it off my chest that I'm annoyed by their behavior, of which we have to deal with the consequences. As for the hate from other fandoms, I know from experience that haters are just always going to hate. You can try and enter into a discussion with them, but both parties are undeniably convinced of their own point of view and are convinced that they are right. Thus, these negative comments are almost not bearable if you actively pay heed to it and call out every single one of them. I just report and hope they get suspended, even though that will just keep them quiet for a very short time before they start hating again. I just mainly try to focus on the good parts of the fandom and the good parts about standing Blackpink and get all my energy and enjoyment from that and just try and ignore the rest. Next question was about what I would think is important to have as qualities to be an idol. Well, considering the years of training beforehand, I'd say perseverance like no other. Because you will be pushed to such limits that you never even imagined that would be there. I'd say also a thick skin, because even before debut there are already sometimes bad comments about you, and hate will, in my opinion, always be there as an idol. And lastly, I'd say a down-to-earth mindset, so that you will always have the sense of humbleness over you. I respect it in an idol. You are famous, but you're able to see that that doesn't make you caught on my teeth. It can just suddenly go and do everything he or she wants. So yeah, that is my answer to that question. Next question is actually quite interesting because they ask my opinion about ships fighting other ships over who is the realist. I have a very strong opinion when it comes to this, but I must admit that I sometimes catch myself making the same mistake I criticize here. I think it's important when it comes to shipping that you realize that people you're shipping are also just people. People that you will probably never actually know unless they're fictional characters. That means these people are entitled to decide who they want to love or not. That's not up to you. Ships are made for fans and fans only. They shouldn't be anywhere near an idol because you never know if that idol could feel uncomfortable because of it. That's why, for example, in my Pinkon edits on Instagram, I explicitly ask people not to tag the personal accounts of the idols involved, or to repost them with them tagged in the video. I made the video for myself and for the people who might like the idea of that ship. I have no intention of pushing my ideal ship onto my idol. So people fighting other ships claiming their ship is real is in my eyes also ridiculous, because how would you know how that idol would really feel? You claiming to know how an idol really feels or what their sexual orientation really is delusional. So just try and keep shipping modest, within limits and away from the idols. That's my point of view on this whole thing. Do I get emotionally connected to some of my edits? I do get sometimes emotional for my own video, if that's what you mean. Like when I made our Pride video for Blackpink's anniversary, I actually cried the first time I watched my result. But when I rewatched it while correcting errors left and right, the emotion disappears. It's what I call an editing curse, because you become numb to your own video and you forget why you thought the video was magical or impressive or funny in the first place. And suddenly you feel insecure to share it and you think, oh, my subscribers, they will probably not like this either anymore. Which more often or not appeared not to be the case, because apparently the wow effect that I first felt was still there for you guys when you watched it for the first time. So that was reassuring. Who is my favorite big 3 company? Music wise, I'd say YG, but it's a very close call with SM, because SM can have really good songs and mostly even better B-sides. But I really tend to like YG's music a bit more. However, when it comes to the promotion and the way they treat their idols, I dislike all 3. But JYP the least, because JYP has shown that they really do pay some attention to the mental health of their artists and their general health, even though they have a reputation of over-pushing their artists as well. And yeah, the promotion is a good thing, but also a bad thing, depending on how much they are pushing the artist, I suppose. Do you have a cat? I have not. I had a dog for 12 years, but she died in 2017. May her precious soul rest in peace. Alright, this person asked me what my favorite fan-made trailer is and what trailer I'm proud of. I'd say both Anarchist the Beginning as the Cube were really big steps for me. Anarchist the Beginning was a trailer where for the first time made something somewhat original. Even though I hadn't mixed the audio myself, but it was where I added visual effects for the first time for my trailers, which made it seem more convincing. But the Cube was one of my first projects where I really felt like I had made improvements to my skills. I had mixed the entire audio myself, the storyline was from nothing that had ever existed, and except for a 2-second clip from another movie, I was able to use all Kpop original footage and still make something cool and convincing. And thus I'd say I treasure these two the most. However, an honorable mention would be Legend of Elfo, where we wrote out a very complex fantasy concept and managed to convincingly edit that out into a trailer which I had deemed to be impossible. And last of all, if I were to be a Blackpink member, who would I be and why? I'd say I'd go with my bias. Not only would I be funny, down to earth, gorgeous and wise, but I also have great vocals, amazing visuals, and I would have Jennie, Lisa and Rose as my best friends. So who wouldn't want to be Jisoo, to be honest? So that was it for now. I hope you guys liked my Q&A, and if this seems to be a success, I'll probably make a second one. Thanks for watching as always, and thank you for supporting my channel. Bye!